What's up everybody, this is my Harlowe team support build. This isn't about doing the most damage as an individual, but instead making it so the whole team does more. These clips are from when I was helping two friends level up their alt characters and then trying out their own builds at a drill site. But I want you to pay attention to how many enemies are entangled and watch the health bar of our teammates as both of these go into the effectiveness of the build. This build focuses on using constant support bubbles using the group study Capstone. We're giving our teammates gun damage boost, fire rate boost, and reload speed. And then using the augment nuclear winner where they then give action skill cooldown, team lifesteal, and near constant shield regen and overshield boosters. All this, we're trying to maximize our damage the best we can. We're going to use Jacob's ricochet weapons. We have infinite crits with our nuclear winner augment. And with that, let's get right into it. Here's the full skill tree. Go ahead and take a screenshot if you come back to the video, I have it saved as a chapter down below. I'm going to go through the capstone and the augments first, and then I'll talk to the team buffs, followed by what we're trying to do to buff our own damage output. Okay, starting with our capstone, we're going to use the group study capstone. So whenever we hit our action skill, it spawns in a Halo sidekick, which during those videos you saw floating around, and it creates like a bubble around the other players and ourselves. And then each ally has their own individual bubbles. So as opposed to using one of these other capstones where it's just thrown on the ground and you have to be within the bubble, this one floats and flies with you and your teammates. It gives a base of 25% gun damage boost, 10% fire rate, 10% reload speed, and then on top of that you can re-trigger your action skill. It'll literally cut the duration bar in half, but what it does is it stacks, so you can then get another 25%, another 10 for fire rate and reload speed. And then we're going to mitigate this because we're going to use a class mod that does control group, which gives us an increased action skill duration, which is a 6% duration increase on kill. For our augment, we're going to use nuclear winner, so whenever Harlowe or allies are inside the flux generator, deal bonus cryo damage, and then when we leave, we'll do bonus radiation damage. Because the bubble is constantly floating around with us and our allies, we'll always be doing bonus cryo damage. And then additionally, when Harlowe inflicts cryo or radiation status effect enemies, that enemy becomes entangled. Now this helps us because we have things like momentum, so whenever we entangle, we deal critical hit, increased damage. We also increase our reload speed. Doing action skill damage, which is that bonus cryo or bonus radiation, gives us automatic critical hits on our next shot, so we're doing never-ending critical hits. Then we have action skill damage, which is the bonus cryo doing shield capacity and overshield. And then we also have any entangled enemies give lifesteal to us and our allies. So we have a whole bunch of skills that I'll go over here in a second that are all benefiting from using nuclear winner. Starting out for our skills, the first one we're going to go into is momentum. So whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she and her allies deal increased critical hit damage. This is just a base buff that we're going to use to give us and our teammates extra crit damage. Then we're going to go into 5 points of mass function. So Harlowe and her allies gain increased reload speed for every entangled enemy. This mass function is going to be a 15% for every entangled enemy because we're going to use a Jacob's ricochet weapon. It's going to be quite a few enemies in a small period of time that'll give 50% bonus, and then we'll have an additional 10% from group study. So all of these are going to stack, so the reload speeds are going to be much faster. So if you have teammates that want to use slower firing weapons and slower reloading weapons, these are going to be big bonuses between mass function and group study. Our next 3 points are going to go into confirmative reality. So whenever we shoot an entangled enemy, we restore ours and our allies' portion of our action skill cooldown. This comes into effect for us when the action skill ends. It'll take us literally 2-3 seconds of shooting in order to get the action skill back. It's 1.5% per shot, so think if you're using a shotgun and it's got six pellets, then that's going to be 1.5 times 6, the same as the damage modifier. For any other gun, it's going to be based on the fire rate. And then for our allies, this will occur throughout the entirety of the fight. So as long as you are shooting something, you are refilling your action skill. So if you saw in those clips, one of my friends was using Amon during this, and he said he has near constant fire axes or frost axes throughout the duration of when I'm in here with Harlowe on this build. Next is going to be distribution function. So this is when I was saying at the beginning to watch the health bars, watch the armor bars, because whenever we do action skill damage, we restore a portion of ours in our ally shield capacity, and if it's full, then we give them overshield. Now you would say, well, we're not really using any action skills that do damage. We are when we do group study with nuclear winter. So whenever we have inside that bubble doing damage with the bonus cryo damage or bonus radiation damage, that is considered action skill damage. So that's going to go into excited state, which we'll talk about once we get to the individual buffs, but it also goes into distribution function because we're doing action skill damage from the bonus cryo damage inside the bubble. We're constantly regenning their shields and regenning overshield if they have full shields, and that goes hand in hand with something like Resonance Cascade, which I'll talk about here in a second. That's going to do more action skill damage, so we can further increase the amount of shield regen and overshield boosting that we're doing. Alright, our next one is accretion, not really sure how to say it, but we're gaining lifesteal for us and our allies whenever we entangle an enemy. This goes into the nuclear winter augment, so whenever we deal cryo or radiation status effects and we are using a Jacob's ricochet weapon, doing constant crits from excited state, and then inflicting those cryo radiation status effects, we're entangling more enemies. As we entangle the enemies, then if our teammates or ourselves shoot these entangled enemies, they gain lifesteal. So that's again going into, these two are really about survivability for the team. So this one goes into just base overall life, whereas this one goes into shield capacity and overshields. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into neutron decay and resonance cascade. So neutron decay, whenever we irradiate an enemy, we gain increased gun damage, so up to 80%. And then resonance cascade is dealing radiation damage increases action skill damage. Because of this, we're going to use a radiation weapon. The radiation weapon is just going to give us a bonus gun damage, and then radiation is also going to give us bonus action skill damage, which means we do bonus cryo damage with our nuclear winter, and that's going to be increased from resonance cascade. And all of that plays into distribution function, which is 30% of the damage dealt from our action skill, which is our nuclear winter augment, is then giving shields and overshields back to us and our allies. So these three all play into each other combined with nuclear winter. The last three I'm going to talk about are decoherence, creative overflow, and latent charge. Now, decoherence, Harlowe deals increased damage with all sources to entangled enemies for 25%. Because of nuclear winter doing bonus cryo damage, bonus radiation damage, we're using a radiation weapon. We're then inflicting cryo radiation status effects, we're entangling enemies, and that's creating this bonus 25% damage dealt. Now the next one is creative overflow. We're increasing our gun damage based on our overshield up to 36% based on how much overshield we have. And then lastly is bonus damage with guns, melee attacks, and action skills while we have overshield. And the more overshield we have, the bigger the bonus, up to 50%. All of this plays into distribution function, which is what is giving us the overshield in the first place. Now you're probably asking, well, how does gun damage actually increase our action skill? Well, in our specializations, we're going to add in that 50% of gun damage increases go into action skills. So we will get gun damage increases, which increases our action skill, with resonance cascade increasing our action skill, all from the bonus cryo damage from nuclear winter. And that's going to increase the bonus damage from guns and action skills with our overshield, all coming from using distribution function to give us the bonus overshield in the first place. The last one I'm going to talk about is control group in the blue seize the day skill tree. We're not speccing into this all the way down the blue tree, but we are going to look for this in our class mods. Now, the cooldown, action skill cooldown is 9% on kill and duration is 6% on kill. We're not so much worried about the skill cooldown because we already have 3 in the confirmative reality. But what we do want to get is the action skill duration, and that's 6% on kill. The reason we want this is because we want to be able to re-trigger our action skill without losing too much of the duration. Now, anytime we reactivate the action skill, we gain more gun damage, fire rate, reload speed, but we lose out on duration time. Now, it says only 25%, but in my playing with it, it seems to cut the duration bar in half every time you re-trigger. So then having control group, if you're running around killing mobs at a drill site, you can then gain 50% or 75% damage output while still maintaining its duration, because we're gaining back some of that every time we kill an enemy. Now for our gear, starting out, I'm going to any sort of weapon that you want, but you want it to be a radiation and you want it to be a Jacob's license part. Now the radiation is because of the extra damage we're gaining from neutron decay and from resonance cascade, and then the Jacob's license part is going to be because of nuclear winter causing automatic crits while we have group study active from excited state. You want to be able to ricochet shots to as many enemies as possible, entangle as many enemies as possible. So the Lucian's Flake just became my best weapon for this build. This also has a high fire rate. Because of its high fire rate, we then can use that to our advantage with confirmative reality for 1.5% per shot of action skill cooldown. That high fire rate, you'll see your timer go from 30 seconds to ready in an instant with this Lucian's Flake. This is my personal opinion. I like this best, but I think the best weapons for this build are going to be a radiation weapon with Jacob's license part. You also see I have a cryo and radiation stellium. I found this to work out really well because it also has Jacob's license parts. You can get the Lucian's Flake here at the Meathead Riders down here in Terminus Range. Just go to their reliquary, order silo, and travel south. Next, I got my rep kit, so I'm using the large kill spring. This one once again goes into team support and team healing. So on kill converts 100% of excess damage into healing orbs, and then on use gives lifesteal for ourselves. So this is big because you'll see the orbs after we get a kill floating to our teammates and being able to heal them. That just goes into the team support aspect of the build in general. Next is ordnance. You can pick any ordnance on this that you want to use. I just have this one mainly because of the firmware being set the way I wanted it, which is trick shot. Next, I'm going into the enhancement of excessive multi-strike. This one works best because we're using Jacob's weapons. Guns with license part grant consecutive critical hits a stacking 5% bonus damage. Because of nuclear winter and excited state in our skill tree, we're doing constant critical hits, so we might as well stack crit damage with this up to 40%. And then guns with Jacob's license part have an additional 20% to grant critical hit. We don't really need this, but when we're out of our group study bubble, then the piercer comes into play and helps us critical hit, ricochet, and entangle more enemies. Now the bottom two stats are not the way I would like it on this roll, but I had to go with it because of the fact that I can get the bonus crit damage from Sequencer. Next, we're doing the Watts for Dinner. The reason I'm doing this, one, get the bonus 25% shock damage. That helps us out. But when dealing damage, 10% chance to grant overshield. So find a shield that has Siphon on it, and specifically Siphon for overshield. Because of our own personal damage buffs between Creative Overflow and Latent Charge, we want to have overshield as much as possible, and so this just helps keep our overshield up the entire time. Alright, lastly, we're going to go for the Universal Generator class mod. Whenever Harlowe activates her Flux Generators, she decreases the remaining action skill duration by 50%, gains 200% skill power. What this does, this is where I was talking when you activate or re-trigger Group Study, you're going to see the skill duration bar be cut in half. That's where that's coming from. But what we're gaining is 200% action skill power. So under group study, instead of gun damage being 25%, it's now going to be a 50% boost. And what we're looking for is to have a higher stat quality from control group stat, so that we have a higher skill duration, because anytime we re-trigger, we're going to cut our time in half, and we're already starting with half of what we used to have. Then we want to be able to have as much uptime as possible using the control group passive from the blue skill tree. The kill spring comes from Axmal in the Carcadia district of Dominion that has the abandoned auger mine. The generator class mod can be found in the Umbral Foundry right up here in the northeastern portion of Terminus Range, and you can fast travel directly to this station and fight via Lictor. And lastly, the Watts for Dinner can be found at the Ark of Arrigo here in Terminus Range. You can also fast travel directly to this station and fight Arrigo for the Watts for Dinner energy shield. Moving on now to our specializations. The key that we want here is to get Daredevil down to 10. So I have 10 into Runner, 10 into Sharpshooter. I also have 20 into Brute. But you want the 10 here in Sharpshooter and Runner first in order to get 10 in Daredevil. And that's because you want to get the action skill damage benefits from increases to gun damage. So any gun damage increases that we have from enhancements or from class mods, we want to be able to boost that. Any gun damage boosts that we're getting from our skill tree, we want to increase that, and that increases our action skill damage, which then once again increases our shield regen, which also increases our ally shield regen and overshield booster, and then the overshield boosters increase our gun damage again. So all this goes into stacking of action skill damage, stacking of gun damage, stacking of crit damage in order to do the most damage as an individual, but really put out the most benefit to our teammates. Next, I'm going into Bullet Train. We're going to use this one because we can now hit fire while sprinting and gain gun damage faster we move. This really just lets us move around quicker and do more damage, but it's stacking once again gun damage while we're moving. And then moving over to In the Zone, gaining while aiming, we can gain increased gun damage and critical hit damage. Again, like I said, we're stacking gun damage, crit damage throughout the entire build in order to increase, on our specialization side of the house, increase our action skills, which increases our overshield boost, which increases our teammates' overshield boost. It increases our own lifesteal. And then next we're going to go into Riddle You This. So whenever you deal gun damage, get a stack of Riddle You This, increasing gun damage up to 50%. This again is just another stack of gun damage that we're adding. And that's it for the build. If this video helped you, then please help me out with a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm on a goal to reach 100 subs by December, and check out more Borderlands 4 content right here. See ya!